Why are you laughing?
This is all so exciting.
Was it? Right. I'm just glad because it's the second half. Woohoo. I just feel... I never really care if anybody says anything when it comes to the second half. It's just like pressure is off. So.
Do we have to do new intros now?
What's the intro now? I'll be like... Right.
He was just telling me about this video game. Tell him about the video game. I think it's relevant. It's absolutely relevant.
There's this game called God of War, and at the beginning of the games, usually you're all singing, all dancing. You have all the powers, and usually within the first hour of the game, you lose everything. You lose all the fighting skills and all the powers, and then you spend the rest of the game slowly getting them back. And I can't remember how that relates.
It's just where it feels like a metaphor for this.
Yeah.
You know, you start out perfect and then...
Yeah, it is like that. But, yeah.
Because when you said it, I was like, wow, somebody really thought about that, right? That's fucking great.
Yeah. Yeah, it resonates.
Movies have that. A lot of movies, films and stories are based on that myth, and in the third act, the hero dies, and then rises from the death a new person, you know?
Yeah. In literature, all the best books have that, don't they? The transformation of character.
Yeah. The character has to die, not physically, but figuratively speaking, they just die, and then are reborn. Always in the third act and the last act.
That's right. Yeah, can be a transformation, social transformation, or non-dual transformation, but some reconciliation.
And then they meet up with a lady, they become whole, or find the treasure, become whole. There's all this.
Sure.
Oh yeah, like defending your life.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, it's known as the hero's journey.
Hero's journey.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes. And it's really the the kind of backbone of all the classic stories.
Yes. Yes. Joseph Campbell, wasn't it?
Joseph Campbell. Yes.
But that one that we often get sold where it happens by the person meets the other person that completes them. I feel like that's quite responsible for a lot of our kind being lost, I think. That myth of finding the one that will actually, so kind of insidious, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's another kind of secret, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you complete me, that kind of
thing. And it gives everybody a purpose, right? It gives everyone a path. Okay, right, get it. And
that and good versus evil. It was oversimplified.
This was in a novel as well. You have to die to the life to write the novel, like Proust or Dostoevsky. There's always that. Proust gave up on his Ponzi parties. He used to go to all his soirees, and he couldn't do it anymore physically, so he started to write, and he saw his life completely differently. So I suppose there has to be that transformation. Otherwise, it's kind of bullshit. And then Dostoevsky's later work, you see that he used to portray himself as sitting in the box seats, in the opera or whatever, everybody admiring him, and then his later works, he didn't give a shit how people perceived him, and he became a great writer, I suppose. He didn't give a So it's comedies like that, isn't it? You have to let go of any identity, how you're perceived. Madame Bovary, as Flaubert said, Madame Bovary is me, myself. We're all, one thing, Dancing with an Aristocrat, her whole design. Well, she read kind of romantic novels when she was in a nunnery. I don't know if it was Madame Bovary, but And then her desire came from that, as our desires come from movies and shit, don't they? And we get stuck on these ideas. I read all the wrong books, they got me in a lot of trouble. The stuff I read just made me worse, like, I don't know.
It's funny about things happening because someone was talking about the birth of rock and roll and all that sort of stuff, and it was almost like there was an energy there. And in the old days, people come on to jazz clubs, and the young groups would suddenly put in like a rock and roll song. The audience start dancing, and they get fined. You weren't meant to play rock and roll; you were meant to play jazz, and they got slapped down. But it's like this irrepressible energy was coming out. It couldn't be slapped down, and suddenly they gave in, and okay, rock and roll took place. But it was almost that the energy of its own, which just could not be contained. It was going to get out no matter what, you know. So that was a happening there, you know. When you had the Renaissance and all that happening of the music, and Shakespeare's time, and not just Shakespeare, but Marlowe and Johnson, this happening of the splurge of literacy coming out. It's strange, isn't it, how things just happen, you know?
Yeah. During periods of hardship as well, the outbreaks of creativity, because it's got a place then, doesn't it? Like, I think the 60s was just a big part of that, and all the kind of beat writers at the time living in their cold water flats, and I mean, it was amazing creativity.
And now it's all died down. Rock has now become a backwater, you know. It's now like jazz, you know, appreciated by a few, but things have moved on. But how in life and culture these energetic things suddenly start happening,
and people having ideas at the same time, the same ideas as well. Like, it's trying to find a vehicle through which to express itself almost. Yeah, it's interesting. I think Alan Moore's got a name for that. It calls it idea space or something like that.
The comic book, right?
Irresistible force of creation, isn't it? That creation just happens almost. It's not like anybody needs to think of what to do. It's just in times of, I don't know, suppression or discomfort, for example, that the pain of that almost, or the pressure that builds up of that, eventually just gives way. You know, things just, or people just stop getting in the way of it, you know, and then it just breaks forth seemingly from nowhere, and yet it needs that. I feel like it needs that pressure.
And then I think some people just have to express the shadow for us. So you get like I don't know, like my favourite novelists would be like Henry Miller, but expressing the shadow so we can laugh or don't have to live it in a way. Though some of us tried. Yeah, we need that. Like we need it, don't we? Like, you know, if we don't do it ourselves, we need other people who do it. Otherwise, because you forget, you get caught up in this seriousness and the banality of life, and then it's like, you know, actually it's okay to live properly, or like, people give you permission, don't they, to be who you are, and like we need allies, like after awakening, before awakenings. When people express stuff that most people keep hidden, it makes us all feel freer, whether you're awake or not. No.
And absorbing that material kind of, it's like you said, it's, you know, people give you embody it for you, but it puts you that much closer to maybe one day you'll get out of the way as well, and it'll be you that'll, you know, let forth the expression that's in you, rather than reading somebody else's, or
Yeah.
maybe one day your own barriers will fall as a consequence of that constant reminder. That fire could go cold without the exposure to its reflection of its light.
There's something about like a time in your life when you've lived the shadow. Like not everybody's done that, but the insights from that are amazing. If I'm sure quite a few of you have, but if you haven't, you don't really understand. I think you get more entrenched in inherited traditional morality and more accustomed to. I don't know that you can break someone out of that. Like people say, therapy training can, maybe in a group, but there's something about living it.
Yeah.
You know what you're capable of when you've been confronted with dark stuff and you've been on the edge, and you know what that feels like, and you understand how people can go take a dark path. Like there's a lot less blame there. And I think people pick it up around you as well. It's okay to bring their own dark stuff if you've been that I have, of course.
And exploration of that dark. Dark is it's a subjective. It's probably not even. It's probably somebody else that's told you that that's dark in a way, right? And by you going into it and embodying it and living it, I know my own experience of that is that the very darkest things that I ended up allowing and going into, I look back now and they've kind of revealed themselves as the quite, maybe not the purest expression of my spiritual journey, but the most embodied and alive experience. They were not the self-indulgent wrong things that they were painted as actually by going through those. I could see clearly. I see. With the benefit of where I am now, I see exactly what purpose that played, and it's flipped on its head. Actually, it's like that thing that was my cross to bear actually was one of the very greatest things about me, and I needed to kind of allow that and be with that, and I see what it's brought me in terms of wholeness and life skills almost.
Yeah, I get that. But it's funny that you get so caught up in that, like if you're living on the edge or you have done and you but you think you can't see that you're just in this massive defences, that life isn't how you perceive it at all, and you didn't need to struggle. It used to always be like, and even like turning to writers, which I would do, like I'd read Henry Miller, he laughed at life and he'd be like, I can cook, like giving permission to laugh about how crazy my life had gotten, and I guess you need that. But then now waking up, it's like, what did I put myself through so much hell for? But then I don't regret it either, because it's like an interesting life. I lived a colourful life, and I'm glad I didn't just do the kind of conventional thing, I suppose.
Yeah. Again, that's the conversation we were having in the break, is that, the great thing about having lived that is, I've been all the way over to the far fence over there, and too much, right? You need to go a little too much is just the right amount.
Yes.
It's an adage that I live with. It almost applies to absolutely everything, right? Because now I know that I haven't underclubbed it. But having been all the way to that fence over there in life and all the way over there, today I sit here in the middle and even just in pure geometry and mathematics, I know where the middle is maybe, but I sit here and I don't have the compulsion to go explore over there because I've been there. I don't have the compulsion to go over there to explore because I've been there. And actually, as we were also saying, with the dissolution of the linear idea of time, I'm actually over there and I'm over there still today. I feel that I can still get the resonance of that life experience. It's still here. So actually, all that's happening at the same time. And no wonder I'm happy to sit here and just do nothing.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it all. you know, and I've done it all, and it takes away from the mind's curiosity of, oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
But really, I think it's about aliveness. It's having had that experience of the intensity of going into the naughty, into the profane and the profound, and you know, I feel like that actually is, it's all somehow part of the picture.
I know Irving Yalom said that, like, living life fully, it prepares you for death. Like, there's less fear of death in people who feel they have lived their life, and I think that's true. Definitely, the unlived life haunts you. I think a lot of people suffer from that. So there is some sort of, yes. I used to kind of envy people who lived it, you know, and then who lived an interesting life. Then having done that, like, there's nothing in it for you anymore. It's like, all right, you know, and it feels good not to have that, because, you know, you've been there, done that, and now it's just, I don't know, look, who cares, but
So what prompted you to start your YouTube channels?
I just, as a way to participate, because I don't really write that well. It takes me forever to type out a paragraph or two, so there's a lot of great expressions of this that are online, you know, in groups, and people just, and I felt I wasn't able to really participate because I don't really enjoy typing, so I figured I'm better speaking about it. So that's why I started doing videos and interviewing people. It's a great way to have a dialogue, and I think I was saying to you earlier, like, you can speak to someone for 2 hours on YouTube where, you know, I'm not sure they would speak privately for free if we weren't doing a podcast. So it's kind of nice in that way too. You know, you just say you have a podcast, they'll talk to you for an hour and a half. So it's just fun. I'm just having fun with it, and yeah, I guess it's just a way to be a part of the conversation. You know, be in the conversation. So it just seems like an ongoing dialogue about this.
And Tony says we have no choice, doesn't he? So is that just what you find happening? I mean,
yeah, well, you know, I would say there's no we to have a choice, but choices are being made, you know, we're doomed to make choices. I don't know who said that, but...
I like that, doomed,
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, I don't have a choice but to make choices. So, like, yeah, it just happened. Yeah, the whole thing just happened, of course, just like anything. But there's nothing more special about that than making toast. You know, that just happens too. It's the same.
The world would say differently though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Toasts can be pretty good. I was thinking, we were saying earlier, this quote from St. Augustine. He said, the man who knocks on the brothel door is really looking for God. I didn't know that at the time, but we're talking about, you know, dark sides and shadows, and, you know, a lot of the darkest stuff I might have been involved in, you know, it was seeking.
Yeah.
A lot of times with drugs and stuff, I was seeking oblivion, you know, because I didn't want to be. I was seeking my own absence. In bliss, you know, when you're blissed out, you don't know you're there. So it's kind of nice to know that it's always been this way, and I don't have to do anything to. I think that's where the there's nothing you can do comes in as far as that's what people are hearing, because it's already like I don't have to search for it. And you said it's life, it's living, it's isness, beingness. So
yeah, I resonate with that with drugs as well. You know, I mean, it's the impulse to get out of my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But yeah, and that was one of the things that, 40 years later, I look back and I go, you were fucking smart, man. When you were 10, you were looking for a way out already. You kind of knew there was more in a way, and everything that kind of gave you a glimpse, although it felt like just looking for oblivion, looking for the nothingness. I mean, nothingness and everything live right next door to each other. That's the line, right? Where they meet, that's it. So it definitely reframed all of my drug taking experiences and impulses.
Yeah. It's funny you say nothing and everything. I was thinking Paul Morgan Summers used the expression "neverything."
Yes.
Yeah, it's neverything. There's nothing and everything. Everything. Yeah, because there's no separating the two. But it's why people shoot themselves in the head, not in the foot, because they're trying to quiet the voice of the 1,000 monkeys.
Yeah.
Because I'm just conscious, you're just so helpless to the condition in which you're in. You're very helpless to your emotions, and they come along like storms. You just have to hang on in there and just there's no controlling them.
Yeah. There's no controller, but I guess I had to redefine what myself is, what me is, what this is, because nothing else made sense. So the only thing that makes sense is like this present experience, this present expression, this moment. This is me. I'm interacting with you, you're interacting with me. This is it. There's no more myself beyond this. So, some people say it's a shift in identity. From my, small independent entity to everything. Australia's word. But nobody can shift their identity either.
You can suppress your emotions. Of course, there's no one who can do that, but not everybody can suppress emotions. But there's, like a lot of us do that. I used to do that. I was really ashamed of being vulnerable, and of course, awakening takes that away. It's just natural suddenly.
Yeah, when you say that, it sounds like there's someone trapped in here that's, like emotions, and they're like a victim of circumstance. Like Alan Watts said, trapped in a bag of skin.
I suppose in your state, they don't stick. They arise and they fall away. Am I right in thinking that?
Not for everyone though. Some people have trauma, when they're awake, and they'll get anger that goes on and on. or whatever. Like, so it can manifest differently in everyone, really. Like, so ordinarily, I think, yeah, definitely hero emotions come and go much quicker, and it's often just neutral. It's just a kind of nice neutral, you know. I, the rest of you won't find it, but like, it's often just. Do you find neutral? Do you get neutral periods? Quite a lot of neutrality, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, mostly the experience is neutral. It's like, it's kind of like there's an instrument panel, and I guess what might previously have been experienced as a reaction, as a feeling in the body, now just an indicator light comes on the panel and just says, oh, okay, so that's that, but it doesn't move me or I don't feel it, right?
That.
So I get an awareness that it's like, okay, yeah, so it's information rather than feelings almost.
I get that. Yeah, nicely put. Yeah, because that's how I experience it too. Yeah.
Because I'm constantly, there's a part of me that's constantly engaged in the management of the algorithm and fascination with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not just from a sense of duty, but a sense of awe and wonder at this magical being called Bob, and quite how he functions with all his fucked upness and all his history and his likes and his dislikes, and so yeah, but it's I see it.
Yeah.
But mostly I can't say I ever really feel it. You were talking about the blessing of actually when you do experience emotion, when you are in that, and I find it rarely comes with any intensity now, but when it does, I welcome it in, but yeah, it passes so much quicker than it used to, that's for sure. It comes in, it's and maybe that's it. Maybe because I allow full intensity right up front, that it just kind of burns itself out quicker,
Yeah, not running from it.
And I don't consciously do that, but it just seems that's the way that's processed. I think that allowing the intensity, it comes back to the fuck it that I mentioned before we went to the break. That was it. That was what that fuck it looked like. Was I was sitting in a room full of people, and I decided that I was in that moment. I wasn't going to get in the way of allowing my vulnerability and my feelings to be seen and to express them before these group of strangers. Fuck it. I'm too tired. I can't do it anymore. Can't hold it back. Wow. And I just went. And that was the getting out of the way, and it seems like I was fortunate that in that moment it was met with the very best response that I could have hoped for, which I feel like kind of cemented that as okay, this works, I guess previous to that, where we have a life experience where we don't show our emotions because we're not sure if we're going to be met or understood, or we're going to be told off or whatever. But there I was in a moment where I let go with all the emotion that I'd been carrying, and I received the gift of unconditional love from a group of people, physically. So I think that changed everything about the circuits, right? I'm relearning what intensity brings and whether to allow that. So yeah, that was it going forward. Oh right, yeah, when intensity comes, I show it.
It's weird.
Because life actually pays me out on such a grand scale if I can just keep doing that. So yeah.
I think it's like that every time you do something, it feels impossible, but and then you break through, and it's like. It just seems like nothing, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And it just disappears what went before, almost like an awakening, like everything disappears before. It's just...
The habit of getting in the way, for example, yeah, because it's broken, right? Something in you breaks. And, we're smart, right? We are fucking smart, and we're switched on, and we're watching everything. My awareness has been aware of everything that happened in my life, prior to the point that I called awakening and SIPs, I knew exactly what was wrong with me. I just wasn't willing to look at it. It gets hidden and morphed, and But ultimately, I've never successfully lied to myself in the course of my life, and and that's why that's what makes the simplicity of maybe this method or of working on it. It is possible to be very direct and very simple, and create the shift of all time in a person just by fucking going there. Because on some level, we all know where it is. The language around it may sound different, but I think given the right environment and the right position of trust, we all want to make that fucking leap, man. I don't want to carry this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that with repression as well, like when you realise that you knew all along what you were doing, what you were allowing to happen, and it's like, oh my God, like owning it is something else, isn't it? It's like, and then it's like, no more.
Yeah.
That, like, bizarre. Like we've got everything we need and we don't use it. We don't want to see, we don't want to hear, It's funny.
And yet you can completely understand that as well, right? With your conscious awareness looking at the algorithm that is your lived experience, and nothing is a mystery about you in that sense.
Yeah. Mm.
And then I guess the shift is either you can go there by allowing the emotion to have like the full Shakti energy version of it, or we can do the non-duality thing and go through the door of nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
You can go through the nothingness door or the everything door. Anything in between is probably
Avoidance of some kind.
yeah. Well, it's just not going to do it, right? It has to be. It's one of those two ends of the experience.
Yeah.
And then you need to, if you go through the nothingness door, then going forward, you're going to have to deal with your emotional stuff actually, and you'll have to deal with the everything. Or if you go through the everything door, you'll probably find that as time goes along, you come to sit with the nothingness.
Either way, it's full on.
Yeah.
Yeah, had I guess it was guilt about something a while back, and it just let it just burn me up, like you said. I didn't run from it. I didn't go for a technique to deal with it or make it less intense. I just full on, and then it just.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's being willing to burn. When you get when you give yourself permission or have the experience of, or get in the habit of allowing yourself to burn in something.
I just
Kind of.
think at the time, I was thinking of that also. I was like, just let it eat me up. Let's see what's the worst that can happen with this.
And that's here we are at the non-duality, right? That's the thing, isn't it? It's that's the fear. What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can, as the brain says, the worst that can happen is you're going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this looks like to the brain.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so difficult to do it directly. So hard to kill yourself that way, but then we have these surprising experiences of falling out the back door and suddenly there I am. Yeah, it's very difficult to walk onto the sword when you see it coming.
Because you don't know the sword is freedom.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's why the fear of death leaves, is because you're already dead. And now you're alive. Now you're truly alive. And that's what the fear of death was, you know. The fear of death actually was a fear of not having lived.
Yeah.
Now that I'm alive, I see it, and I no longer fear death.
And I think it's the wonder and curiosity that childlike, and almost with death, it's like, oh, I wonder what that's going to be like, you know?
Yeah. Which, when we were 5, we were much closer to being, you know, to entertaining that, right? As a thought, and with the things we do, you know, you jump off fucking buildings or whatever it is, and when you're a grown up, you know, life is much too precious and serious, and you stay away from all of that, or your defence instincts and mechanisms are so ingrained now that you're making all, you know, a whole bunch of other choices without even knowing why it was programmed like that in the first place. But when you're that kind of 5-year-old child, kind of free, man, you know.
Yeah.
The rules of the game haven't really been clearly stated to you yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like opening that door that, you know, grandparents had never opened that door.
Yeah.
I see that sometimes. There's a comedian who has a joke about that. His parents told him never go near the cellar door. No matter what you do not open the cellar door. And one day he pushed it and walked through, and he saw strange, wonderful things he had never seen before, like trees, grass. He had been locked in the basement.
Sounds like a Bill Hicks kind of thing.
I think it was Emo Phillips, actually, yeah. Who also says, I used to think the brain was the most important organ in the body until I realized who was telling me that. So a lot of people in non-duality talk a lot about the brain. But, you know, is it really a reliable source if it's telling you it's the source of everything? You know, I don't see a source for anything. Like, where could all this be coming from? My brain? I don't know. I don't think so. But
Yeah. And as a source of intelligence, I mean, that's what this is, right? It's, you know, that was the unmistakable reveal. There was an authenticity to the integrity of this, and it's knowing, and it as the source didn't need any accrediting. You know, there was something instinctive, intuitive that went, right, this is the big boss, you know, it's, and by its contrast to the mind, suddenly I could see the mind in subjective isolation and compared to this, and I see it for exactly what it is, you know, and realise its problem. The mind's problem is it can't conceive of this. That's its very problem. That's its one and only problem is it can do whatever it wants, but it can't conceive of this. And this is the source of everything. Suddenly the mind is just a computer full of data.
and very limited data.
Yeah, and it's only as good as the programming, right?
Yeah.
And one of the first lines of coding that went into it was absolutely designed to fuck it up. I'm not sure if I'm lovable. You know? I'm not sure if I'm worthy.
Yeah.
Hang on, mate. Got a plot reveal for you.
Yeah.
You are love itself. And then, now the two can work together, you know. So it just changes the entire landscape of everything and managing the being. And not just of you. Everyone's built the same, so actually, you know, you don't just gain understanding of yourself at this point, you gain pretty much understanding of everybody, because the problem for every single human is that fundamental thing, that brain that cannot conceive of this, that brain that doesn't know if the I that I think I am is worthy of love. You know, when truth is, I am love, I am everything. Yeah. Solves it for me anyway.
Yeah.
And I haven't worked with a single person who that wasn't their root problem either. Because once you have that, then it turns out there's nothing else is needed, you know. The only thing I needed in life, the only thing of any real import was remembering this. It turns out,
We were talking about emotions being short-lived sometimes, and sometimes being allowed to consume. And I was wondering if something happens, if that happens with positive emotions sometimes, like a few months ago I got this job and I was like, it paid really well and I was really excited about it, and I just could feel all this like joy, and at the back of my mind somewhere I knew, like, you know, this job might not work out. Turns out it didn't work out. But there was just this loads of joy about this job because it paid well. And then the other day, I got some good news about another source of income. But then this time it was like, there was joy, but it was also kind of like, yeah, but it's just, you know, it is what it is kind of thing. And when I wasn't holding on to it so much, like that feeling of joy, it wasn't, it just didn't seem so constant, like this big thing. It was more or less like this fluctuating thing that when I wasn't trying to keep it going, like keep it, you know, it's more like, I mean, logic, the mind was probably saying things like, oh well, it's great, you got some income, but you know, life goes on, kind of thing. But I think more on an emotional level, in terms of like the feeling, without the grasping and trying to keep that emotion going, it wasn't so consistent. It was more just like a fluttering kind of in and out. I don't know if either of you experience something like that with positive emotion sometimes without the holding on to it.
I just know, like, when, you know, like when something good's going on, like it's in the body, like it's like gives you a spring in your step or something. So it's, even if it's not the emotion, there's a vitality that's kind of there. So I can't really remember sort of thinking of how joy operates. I can't really think of that at the minute. So, but definitely, like, energetically you're affected by it. Like, just like when the opposite of that happens and, you know, maybe you're not so well off, it's kind of held, isn't it, somehow, like, or something bad. So I don't know, like, I just notice there's a kind of slight excitement, not a feeling, but there's just something animating, maybe, it's there, but I don't know.
You know, I mean, I think I used to hear things like just be and allow everything to be as it is, but I think the person that would have allowed or not allowed or wanted to grasp things and have more of it or push certain things away, like, that's kind of gone. So there is just being and allowing without someone doing that. But so it's not that the things don't arise, like joy and sadness, but I don't sense that there's something in here trying to get more out of the joy than what it is in the moment, or less of the sadness. Like, when was that expression, full on. It's just full on, and then, you know, things come up and then they go off.
Would you say, in seeing that, there's it's almost like sometimes I see something that maybe previously would have been more exciting than it is now, not for all joyous things, but just occasionally. And it's something that, oh, I can see now where I would have kind of magnified this and made it more like, you know, just buzzing off this thing all day, like maybe from the vitality of it and stretching that out with the mind. Whereas now it's, because it's not grasping anymore, it's kind of just, if something isn't really that great, it's now obvious that, yeah, it's alright. it's not like, you know, the greatest thing in the world. It's just like, oh, that's cool.
I think it used to feel like it was feeding something, and it's not anymore. Like, and you can't take it with you. There's that sort of, in the moment, there's no benefit to that in a way. You're kind of helpless. There's joy in, you know, you're saying grasping. It's just there, and then it's not, and there's nothing. You're just helpless.
Yeah, it's no longer like this. Oh, this amazing thing. So now, like, you know, this isn't a conscious thought, but the feeling of like, now life's great.
Yeah.
Because this thing happened. Like, it's just like, oh no, that's joy. Yeah. And then it's free to go as quickly as it arrives sometimes, or linger if it wants to.
Yeah. Used to feel like you could add things to yourself, you know. Like, oh,
Yeah,
bullshit.
I've been broke for most of my life, and a family friend gave me like a large amount of money, and then my initial reaction was like, yes, this is it, this is just going to open everything up. Now actually I had one of the worst summers of my life. I don't know why. I was just doing drugs and just getting it all wrong and just spending it all. But even when I got the sum of money, like after the initial kind of euphoria, I remember just looking at it on my account, going to like, it's just numbers. Like I don't know, like I should feel different than I do, you know, but I didn't. You know, it was just that sense of like, you chase something, you chase it, and you get it, and it kind of like, oh, that wasn't it. So yeah, you chase it, and you're like, aha. It's like, well, that doesn't feel like it either. Until eventually it's like, I don't think there's an it, you know. So yeah.
I think a lot of people that win the lottery are
Yeah.
depressed after.
Yeah, or that win an Oscar, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a survey actually about basic character. So they looked at one person who's lost their legs in a catastrophic accident, and then somebody who won a lottery. And obviously the person who lost their legs, doom, gloom, and the person who won the lottery, great, hooray. But after 6 months, they revert back to character type. So if the person who lost their legs was a happy guy, they ended up being happy. And if the person who won the lottery was a gloomy guy, 6 months later they reverted back to being gloomy again. So
Yeah. Still, you get a good couple of years out of it, don't you?
He's got a hell of a story to tell.
Yeah. Well, 6 months actually is not a couple of years, but I don't know. God, it's a funny one, because you wouldn't turn it down, would you, a lottery win? Like, even though you know it brings all this distress. Who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
Minutes to go. It's like it when it's 2 minutes. Well, has anybody got any last very quick question? Or like,
just to say that I much prefer this live in performance. I get a good vibe from this room, you know, than watching it on. Yeah. Thank you for coming here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.